I used to work on a commercial vessel. Life at sea was supposed to be simple. Work hard, rest, and repeat. But the sea, it has a dark side, and eventually, everyone learns the hard way. It wasn't just one vessel. Each vessel had its own secrets, like unexplained footsteps, ghostly apparitions, and eerie whispers from the sea. I thought it was just tiredness, but some nights still bother me. It was one of those nights. I was alone in a 4-bedroom cabin, 2 double-decker beds, all empty except for me. The entire floor was vacant, with only one other engineer stationed on the deck, tucked away in another cabin. Midnight had arrived. I had just come off duty, exhausted. I slipped into bed, pulling the comforter up to my chin. My body sank into the thin mattress, and the steady hum of the ship's engine vibrated beneath me. My eyelids fluttered shut. Then I felt it. A light tug in my toenail. My breath hitched. Slowly, I pulled my legs under the comforter, trying to shake off the feeling. Maybe it was just my imagination. Then, the comforter started to slide down. Half asleep, too tired to care, I yanked it back over me. My heart thudded in my ears as I lay there, forcing myself to sleep. At 3 a.m., I woke to the creaking sound of the bathroom door swinging open and shut. The doors tend to move during rough seas, but that night, the sea was like glass. Perfectly calm. I sighed. Maybe I'd left it open. I swung my legs over the side of the bed, walked to the bathroom, and shut the door. As I turned back toward my bed, the faucet started running. My stomach twisted. Slowly, I stepped toward the sink. My hand trembled as I turned the faucet off. I closed the bathroom door and walked back toward my bed. I froze. Yeah, maybe the chief needed me. It wasn't unusual to get called for an urgent issue at the bridge, especially at this hour. The bridge on a ship is the command center where the ship's navigation and control take place. I got up and opened the main door. No one was there. Just the empty hallway stretching out in both directions, dimly lit by the overhead lights. Then, this time it came from the bathroom. My chest tightened. Heart hammering, I closed the door, walked back to my bed, and Saturday. I didn't move. My breath hitched. My chest tightened. I stared at the bathroom door, waiting, praying it was just my imagination. I switched on the light on the side of my bunk bed and crawled under the covers. Earphones in, rock music blasting, I forced my eyes shut and somehow drifted off. A few nights later, I was lying on my bed, scrolling through my phone. My bed curtain was drawn shut. The room felt colder than usual. Too cold. Then I heard it. Footsteps. Climbing the ladder to the top bunk. Someone was up there. I could hear them shifting, settling in. The mattress above me sagged slightly under the weight. At first, I thought maybe the noise was coming from my colleague next door. But then I remembered. I'd passed him in the hall earlier. He was heading to his shift. He wasn't there. My throat tightened. The weight above me grew heavier, like someone was pressing down through the mattress. I shot out of bed, heart pounding, stormed out from my cabin and headed to the dining room, grabbed a glass of water, and sat there trembling. I didn't go back to bed until exhaustion finally pulled me under. A week later, I moved to the upper deck, where the officers and engineers usually stayed. Onwards, my nights were calm. I thought it was over, but months later, I started hearing stories from other crew members who stayed in that cabin. bathroom doors opening and closing, taps turning on by themselves, knocking at the door only to find no one there. That deck was almost always empty. No one stayed there unless we had no other choice. It was 11:30 p.m., half an hour before my shift ended. My crewmate and I were stationed on the bridge, monitoring the controls and scanning the horizon. The soft hum of the ship's systems filled the quiet space as we exchanged occasional glances, both alert and focused on our duties. I sat at the ship's computer, the dim glow of the screen illuminating my face as I prepared my midnight report. Joe, my crewmate, stood by the navigation console panel, quietly adjusting the settings. The low hum of the ship's systems and the occasional beep from the console were the only sounds breaking the silence of the midnight watch. To my left, the stairs leading to the lower deck disappeared into the dim glow of the ship's lighting. Around this time, my relieving officer would usually show up, grabbing a coffee, exchanging a few quiet words, and settling in before taking over the shift. Out of the corner of my eye, I caught the faint outline of someone coming up the stairs. It was the chief, climbing the stairs. He walked past me and headed toward the coffee machine. "Morning, Chief," I said casually. My voice echoed through the bridge, blending with the low hum of the engine. I didn't look right away, just kept typing and focused on the report. A moment later, he walked past behind me, the faint shift of air brushing against my back. I could feel his presence lingering, close enough that I sensed it without needing to turn around. I assumed it was the chief. "All good, Chief?" I said casually. No respond. I didn't think much of it and went back to typing my midnight report and not bothering to look back. Moments later, the space behind me felt hollow, eerily empty, as if no one had ever been there at all. Then, "Hey!" It was my colleague Joe, standing at the corner of the bridge. His face was pale, eyes wide. "Who are you talking to?" Joe frowned. "The chief." "He just walked in," I said. Joe's face tightened, his eyes darkening. "The chief isn't here yet." His voice was low and steady. "It's just the two of us." My stomach twisted. Slowly, I leaned to the side, peering around the edge of the console toward the coffee machine, but there was nothing there. My chest tightened. I jumped up from my seat, heart hammering. My eyes swept across the bridge, nothing, just the dull hum of the ship's controls and the steady vibration beneath my feet. "I saw him," I whispered. Joe's eyes widened, locking onto mine. "No one else came in," he said quietly. I stood frozen, my thoughts racing. Had I imagined it? Or... Minutes later, the real chief climbed the stairs, the dull thud of his shoes echoing through the bridge. "Chief," I said, forcing my voice to stay steady. "Did you come up earlier?" He frowned. "Number I just came up from the dining pantry." My heart thudded heavily in my chest. My hands tightened around the edge of the console. Knuckles whitened. My breath came shallow as I stared into the dim glow of the bridge. Cold dread curled through my veins. It was my first job as an officer on a tanker ship. Midnight shift, 12 a.m. to 4 a.m. every night. We were passing through western Indonesia, far from shore. No lights on the horizon, just dark, endless water, stretching in every direction, the kind of darkness that seeps into your bones. It was around 2 a.m. when the intercom rang, sharp and sudden. I picked it up. Bridge. Bridge, come in. Nothing. Just dead air. A few minutes later, it rang again. My colleague, Muliadi, answered this time. He frowned, pressing the receiver to his ear. Hello? Silence. After the third time, we were reluctant to answer, but we had to. I picked up the receiver. Hello? This is the bridge. I waited for someone to reply. Nothing. Just faint static on the other end. Slowly, I put the receiver down. It rang again, and again. By the fifth and sixth time, we didn't even flinch. We just let it ring, echoing through the bridge until it stopped on its own. I was at the console panel, logging our coordinates. The sea was unnaturally calm, like glass. No waves, no wind. Just the low hum of the engine beneath my feet and the steady sound of the ship slicing through still water. Then I heard it. My fingers froze over the keyboard. My breath hitched. A rooster? At sea? My heart thudded painfully in my chest. Slowly, I turned toward Muliadi. His face was pale, eyes wide. Did you hear that? He nodded stiffly. Yeah. We were in the middle of the ocean, miles from shore. No land, no animals, no roosters. We stared at each other, unwavering, my mouth open to speak. The sharp, jarring sound of something heavy dropped onto the metal floor just outside the bridge. I stood up. Muliadi's face tightened. What was that? He spoke. I stepped toward the exit door, heart hammering, my hand curled around the handle, my breath caught. Slowly, I pushed the door open. Nothing there, just the cold breeze from the sea, cutting through the night. The ship creaked beneath my feet. I stood there, breath fogging in the chill. A loud metallic crash overhead, like something heavy falling onto the bridge roof. Outside was dark, too dark. I stepped back inside, grabbed a torchlight, and swept it across the bridge wings. It's the extensions on either side of a ship's bridge that project out from the main structure. Nothing. No loose equipment. No fallen cables. Nothing out of place. We need to check the top bridge, Muliadi said. Every instinct screamed at me to say no, but I couldn't stand there doing nothing. We climbed the ladder to the top bridge, torchlight trembling in my hand. Muliadi followed behind. The air was freezing, too cold for the tropics. My breath hung in pale clouds as we stepped onto the deck. The torchlights cut through the darkness, barely. We froze. Slowly, we turned toward the sound. Torchlight beams swept up toward the main mast. That's when we saw it. A dark figure sat at the top of the mast, facing the sea, still, motionless. My heart slammed into my chest, my legs tensed. I turned. Let's go! I slid down the ladder, nearly stumbling over the last rung. Muliadi was right behind me, breath sharp and uneven. We were at the bridge wing. Muliadi whipped his torchlight toward the main mast. Nothing. The figure was gone. I swept the light around the mast, just shadows and steel. Did you see it? I said, breathless. Muliadi's face was pale. Yeah. His voice was thin. We weren't imagining things. Both of us saw it. Muliadi just stood there and silent. We walked back onto the bridge in silence. Neither of us spoke a word through the rest of the shift. I couldn't sleep that night. The next afternoon, during my morning shift, I climbed back to the top bridge deck. Sunlight reflected off the steel. The chill from the night before still clung to the air. That's when I saw them. 2, maybe 3 birds, lying near the edge of the deck. Their heads twisted. My chest tightened. I stood there frozen. Some things are better left unspoken. I was part of a team maintaining 4 vessels moored together at sea. The industry wasn't doing well at the time. A lot of ships were laid up, left to rust under the sun. We stayed on one ship, the mothership, and rotated between the others for maintenance. Routine work, nothing out of the ordinary. There were only 10 of us in total, just enough to keep things running. We knew each other well, same faces, same routines, day in and day out. But that day, it felt wrong from the start. The air was too still. The usual low hum of the ship's system sounded off, a hollow echo under the deck plates. It was early morning, just after sunrise. The sky was overcast, gray, and heavy. My team was handling maintenance on another ship, but I had a different work schedule that day, so I boarded the 4th vessel on the other side alone. I unlocked the padlock of the watertight door on the main deck. The metal creaked as it swung open. The air inside was stale, thick. A damp, musty smell clung to the walls. The narrow hallway seemed tighter than usual, like the ship itself was pressing in on me. It was too quiet, just the sound of my boots echoing down the corridor. I moved through the accommodation deck by deck, checking each compartment. All the cabins were empty. The curtains remained drawn to stop moss from growing on the furniture. The dark fabric absorbed the weak light from my torch. It was dark, too dark. My torchlight cut a narrow path through the blackness, my left hand gripping the handle of my toolbox. I climbed the ladder to the bridge. The control panels were covered in dust. I pulled back the protective sheets, my fingers brushing over the cold surface. Slowly, I began my checks, flipping switches, testing equipment. My hands moved on autopilot, muscle memory. A faint tension lingered in the air, like someone was watching me, but I was alone. That's when the phone rang. I froze. It shouldn't have been working. The system was off. It rang again. My hand hovered over the receiver. My mouth was dry. I didn't want to answer it, but I did. Hello? Nothing? I paused. Hello? Then, my breath caught, my spine locked. It wasn't static. It wasn't interference. It was something else. Who's there? No answer. Quiet. Then, the sound filled the room, pressing into my chest and shaking the glass of the control panels. My heart hammered heavily in my chest. I set the receiver down with a trembling hand. I stood there, heart racing, ears ringing. My eyes swept the bridge. Empty panels, darkened screens, just the hollow hum of dead air. My head turned toward the stairs. Slow, deliberate, footsteps, coming from the doorway below deck. I hesitated, heart pounding. Maybe one of my crewmates had come to find me, but the minutes dragged on. Nothing. I swallowed hard, my throat dry. Slowly, I descended the stairs toward the doorway. My hand trembled as I pushed the door open. Empty. Nothing. No one. No sound. Then, footsteps. This time from above, the bridge, right above me. My chest tightened, my breath hitched. Slowly, I climbed back up, my hand gripping the rail too hard. I stepped onto the bridge, sweeping my torchlight across the room. Empty. No one. Just dark panels and heavy silence. Then, sharp, fast, charging toward me, getting louder, closer. I stumbled back, heart hammering against my ribs, then stopped. Right in front of me, I bolted down the hallway, running, not looking back, jumping down the stairs 2 steps at a time, racing past the empty cabins and darkened rooms. Light footsteps, fast, playful, like they were chasing me. like they were playing. My breath caught. My legs burned as I tore through the hallway. Too close. Too real. I reached the weather-tight door on the main deck. I shoved it open. I stumbled onto the deck, gasping, my heart thundering in my ears. My knees hit the cold metal floor, struggling to catch my breath. Behind me. I slammed the door shut, locked it. For a long moment, all I could hear was the sound of the ocean and my ragged breath. I never spoke about it, even to my team,